In this video, I will show you how to track events with Google Analytics 4, and we will do that with the help of its JavaScript library called GTAG.js, also known as Global Site Tag. Hey, my name is Julius and welcome to the Analytics Mania YouTube channel. If you're new here, I teach people how to work with Google Tag Manager and Google Analytics. So if you want to stay up to date with GA4, then consider subscribing to the channel. If you have installed Google Analytics 4 on a website, but you haven't used Google Tag Manager, then it means that this was done with the help of GTAG. Even though I personally always prefer using Google Tag Manager, your business might have different reasons. GTAG is a tracking code library that is used by tools such as Google Analytics or Google Ads, and usually developers deal with it. In this video, I will show you several examples of how this is done. In this video, I presume that you have already installed GTAG on your website. A code that looks something like this should be added to the head of the website. Obviously, the ID will be different because this is my Google Analytics 4 data stream measurement ID, and in your case, that ID will be different. And that code is available if you log into your GA4 property, then admin, data streams, select website data stream, and then in the tagging instructions section, you should click on GTAG.js, and this is the code that you have to add to all pages of your website, recommended in the head section. So once you have done that, then we can continue with event tracking. Below this video, I will post a link to the documentation for developers, and that documentation is of GTAG.js, also known as Global Site Tag. And on that page, you should click on event, and here you will see a code example of how to send an event to Google Analytics 4. So just for example, let's copy this code and paste it right here. Obviously, in real life situations, your event tracking codes will probably be scattered across the website because you want to track different events, different elements. But just for starters, let's take a look at this example when we add the event code to this part. So this command consists of several parts. First of all, it's GTAG command, because all of the commands where you want to send something to Google Analytics 4, they require a GTAG command. Then what kind of command is that? So in this case, we're going to send an event. Then we have to enter the event name, and optionally, you can add some additional parameters about that event. So if you don't want, for example, to add any parameters, a code could look like this. Let's say I will call this test event 1 no parameters. Like that. So this will work just fine. It will send an event with this event name, and that event will also contain some standard information such as page URL, for example, on which this event occurred. Another option could look like this. So we can say test event 2. And if you want to send some additional parameters about that event, maybe like what kind of element was it, or what is the value of the event, or something like that, then you can use the event params section right here. So instead of this, we could send something like that. And in this case, parameters are flexible and you can name them whatever you want. For example, we can say test parameter and its value is hey, and then another parameter could be, let's say, test value, for example. It might be a metric, and you can send that its value is 5, for example. And as you can see in this part, we're sending an object, and that object consists of multiple parameters. If you want, you can send one parameter. If you want, you can send more parameters. But keep in mind that there are some limits. So if you Google Analytics 4 collection and configuration limits, you will see that you can send up to 24 event parameters with a single event. And there are some limitations for the parameter name length. For example, you cannot use very, very long titles for parameters. That could be something like that. Well, this would be definitely too long for Google Analytics 4. So now what will happen is that when I save this kind of code and I load it on a page, it will load Google Analytics 4. It will automatically send a page view, and then automatically on the page view, it will send this event and it will send this event. Now, why on page view? Because I haven't written any logic why these events should fire on certain occasions. These events will be fired immediately when this code is loaded. So let's take a look. Click Save. Then I go to the website where this code is implemented, and then we will check the debug view of Google Analytics 4. So I will go to Configure and Debug View. However, if I just activate that code, which is this one, by default, my events will not be visible right here.
because debug view displays data only of those events where the debug mode is enabled. And one of the ways how you can do that is to just go to the website, then open a Chrome extension, which is called Google Analytics Debugger. If you haven't installed it yet, I will post a link below the video and it will look something like this. You will click the link, install the extension, and then on that website where you want to test your setup, you will have to just click on this icon, which is Analytics Debugger, and then the page will reload. Now you'll see that the extension is on. So I have saved the code, I have enabled the debugger, and then let's refresh the page. The page has reloaded and we have a bunch of events. This was from one page view, this was from another page view because I accidentally refreshed the page twice. So the page view was sent by the GTAG library itself because it is configured to send the page view. And this has happened because this configuration is loaded. And then we have two events. So first event is test event 1 with no parameters. And here it is. I can click it and I can see just several default parameters, but there are no custom parameters because I haven't sent any. And then if I take a look, I would also expect more event, which is test event 2, and that event should contain these two parameters. This one could be a dimension, this one could be a metric. Now, if I click another event, which is test event 2, I will see several standard events, and also I will see test parameter, of which value is hey, and then test value, of which value is 5. But now this code is static. So every time I refresh the page, the same values will be sent because I haven't described any logic, like what kind of dynamic value could it be right here. Maybe on some situations, the value should be something, and in other situations, it should be something else. So now let's take a look at another example where the values will not be static, but instead they will be dynamic and they will depend on what kind of element am I interacting with. So first of all, I will remove this part and just will leave GTAG.js unmodified and then click save. So once I do that, first of all, I can refresh the page. And from this moment in the debug view, I should expect to see page view, maybe user engagement event, but nothing more. And we have two page views. Let me check why we have two page views. Oh, I remember. I have also installed Google Tag Manager on this page. So let me quickly pause the video and I will remove the code. Okay, I've now removed Google Tag Manager container snippet and only GTAG directly in the source code of the website is available. So let's refresh the page. And then here now I should expect one page view event. And here it is, one page view event. So what I'm going to do right now is just a generic example, and just copy pasting the code will not be that useful because maybe your website is built on some framework and this kind of approach that I will show you will just not be sufficient. This is more like a just general overview of how a code that inserts dynamic values could look like. Also in this video, I will not be diving deeper into basics of JavaScript, so I will just in general explain certain parts of the code, like general ideas, what that does, but I will not dive deeper into actually teaching you how to code. So let's say that I want to track link clicks on a website. And every time some link is clicked on a page, I would like to track its text. I would like to track its URL, like click URL. Then I would like to track, let's say, its ID and its class if that information is available on that link. And remember, I am going to do this not in Google Tag Manager, but directly in the code. So I will be writing a thing called listener that will be looking for clicks, and then it will directly send data to Google Analytics via GTAG. So I will go to the end of the code of the website, and here I will add a certain like a code template that is needed if I want to add an event listener. So event listener will be like a function on a website that will be looking for certain interactions on a page. And in my case, I will create a listener that will be looking for click events. So here is that code. It will add an event listener and it will be looking for certain events, and those events are clicks. It can be a click on a button, it can be a click on an image, on the background, on the link. So basically any link that occurs on a page. And then when that click occurs, we will get information about that click event. And then we will do something with that event. So somewhere right here, I will write a code that will send that click information to Google Analytics 4. But again, I will need to filter out and send not all clicks, but only link clicks. So some additional logic will be needed. But first, let's take a look at what kind of click information do we get in general. And that can be done with console log. And here we will just enter what kind of information about the event is available. Oh, actually, I just realized that I forgot to add script here and here. So this is JavaScript now. And then let's click save. Now I will refresh the page. But before I do that, I will open the console of the browser, clear everything, and then refresh the page. So I see this because I have that code right here installed on a website, which is just a regular GTAG. And if I clear this, let's see what my console log will dispatch, because every time a click occurs right here, I want to see that click information in the console. So I will click here, I will click, let's say here, here, and as you can see, I get some events right here. So let's say that I will click this one, and here you should keep looking for target. So this is the element that was clicked, it's a target. And here we have some information about that link. Well, actually not link, but just any element that was clicked. We have things like class name, we have things like href, which is the URL, or actually the click URL, and we have inner text, which is the text of the link. So we have some information about that link. But first we have to solve one thing, because let's take a look. I will clear the console. If I click on a link, we get some information, like information about that link. But if I click on the background, I also get an event. So it means that this listener will fire when any click occurs. And I need to be more specific. I want to track only link clicks on a page. So to do that, we have to take a look at the first event that was on a link click. Then we go to target. And then there's another parameter, which is called, actually we have to click here to expand even more. And that parameter is called tag name. And that is A. So in this case, A means anchor, or in other words, a link. So if a click event occurs and the tag name is A, then I want to send data to GTAG.js. So let's write some code. I will clear this console log, and instead I will write an if statement. If, then the actual statement, event.target.tag name exactly matches A, then we want to send data to Google Analytics via GTAG. So GTAG, and then must be event, if you remember. If you don't remember, then you can take a look at the documentation. So event, then comma, then what kind of event? So we can name it something like link, click, for example. And then we can add some event parameters. And event parameters are added as an object. So it is surrounded by curly braces. So I will add this object, and then let's list those objects. So objects could be something like link text, then link URL, link ID, and link classes. Now, if you're wondering how did I come up with these parameters, in fact, these are the same parameters that are used by the automatic GA4 tracking, which is called enhanced measurement. Below this video, you will find a link to the documentation of enhanced measurement, and here are the events that are tracked, and here are their parameters. And as you can see, we have link classes, link domain, link ID, link URL. We can also have link text. So I took some of them and I just decided to reuse them because these are recognized by Google Analytics 4, and you will be able to use them in reports such as explorations, for example. So these are the parameters, but we have to add certain dynamic values because every time I click a link, its value might be different. So link text could be the parameter that is, well, first of all, it will be its event.target because I'm now in the target, and then inside the target, I need to keep looking for inner text. So it's event.target.inner text and comma. The reason why I enter event right here is because I entered event right here. So every time a click occurs, we get information about the event, and then I drill down into that event. I go to event, target, and then inner text. Now the URL part. So it's event.target. And then I think it's href, but let me check that. So another parameter is href. Yeah, so this is click URL. It's right here. So href, comma, then another parameter should be event target, and then I think it's ID, but let me just quickly check that. ID, but in this case, the link does not have an ID, but if it had, its value would be right here. So ID, and then event target, and let's take a look where we have classes. Class name. So this is an example of the code that will fire on a click, but not on any click, but on a link click. So tag name is A, and if this condition is met, then that code will dispatch a GTAG command with the following information. So let's check what is happening. I save the code because there might be some bugs that need to be tested. So I will refresh the page and I click on the background and we don't see any events. I click on blog and I see the link click. The reason why I'm seeing this event right here is because I have installed another extension, which is AdSwerve Data Layer Inspector. I will post a link to it below the video. So if you install it and if you click this checkbox and save, then it will display events in the console. So I see some events. I will click this link, that link, then I will go to the footer. I will click this link, maybe that link. So let's see what kind of information do we get in the debug view. So I will go to analytics, debug view, and here's the link click. And here I see link classes, which is this one, then link text, which is this one, then link URL is also captured correctly. And we don't have the link ID because the links that I clicked, they don't have any ID. If you go to the site and do the right click and inspect, let's say on catalog, you will see that this link click has class, so class name will be returned, but it doesn't have any ID. That is why ID is empty. Now, let's take a look at other events that we got. We have a bunch of other link click events. We also see the click because this is tracked by enhanced measurement in Google Analytics 4. So we have this link click, we have that link click. So this is pretty much how you could, in theory, track your events with GTAG. If you are setting a parameter and its value is undefined, then that parameter will not be displayed right here. So for example, here you cannot see any link classes because one of the links doesn't even have a class. But this video of mine does not mean that you should exactly write a code like this. This was just an example to show you how dynamic values are inserted in the code. And on your website, the logic of the code might be different. So always consult with a developer if you're not one. Because if there's one person that should be working with GTAG, it's a developer or someone else who knows how to code in JavaScript. This is not something that you can just copy and paste, at least in most cases.
And that is how you can track events with Google Analytics 4 and GTAG. Personally, I prefer working with Google Tag Manager because it gives me more flexibility. But if your company decided to choose GTAG instead, I hope that you found this video useful. Also, if you want to learn the differences between GTM and GTAG, I will post a link to a tutorial below this video. If you found this video useful, hit the thumbs up button below the video because it helps me continue working on this channel. Also, if you want to learn more about Google Tag Manager or Google Analytics 4, then consider subscribing to this channel. My name is Julius, this is Analytics Mania, and I'll see you in the next video.